Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
So Matchroom looking very strong. Also, that sort of puts the sand in the line as far as the line in the sand as far as Hearn and Matchroom saying, listen, we have a TV deal and it's a strong TV deal and it's for the coming half decade. We're going to have a lot of dates and it's with a network that pays a lot of money for boxing. So the whole attempt to take over of Zuffa right now, where they're going to sort of pull away and not let anybody play in their sandbox. Yeah, it's well and good. But again, when competition is around that is able to pull down these kind of deals, you're never going to be able to isolate yourself. If you do it, it's only going to hurt yourself, I think, So with Hearn having the zone and him saying, we're available to work with anybody and then, he has these TV deals, I think that sort of is a strong statement. And also, I think puts him in the lead as far as the competition is concerned. Listen, Zuffa can have as expensive of a deal as they want. So far, the cards we've seen from Zuffa are more that would compete with Pro Box TV than they would with your Matchrooms or your old Top Rank deals, your old HBO and Showtime deals. So far, aside from the fact that Zuffa's contract deal is essentially was hundreds of millions from what we were told with Paramount, they're not really showing that. Whether they show that, would they plan to show that? Okay, but honestly, if it wasn't for Dana White, talking the way he's talking, nobody would even be looking at Zuffa on that level. They will be looking at Zuffa like a promoter to the level of a Pro Box TV or a promoter to the level of some of that level in that way. In reality, with Pro Box, we're more of a network than we are a promoter, but we have those level of fights. I would compare their level of fights more to Pro Box TV level of fights, and so far I don't know that they've matched up to even our level of fights. So that if you're going to go in that route where you're talking about the big promoters, I think you gotta have to start actually putting those kind of fights together. Now which means you're gonna have to pull in these fighters. They are signing some of the bigger name fighters. They have signed some big name fighters, and there's some rumored to be signed. But until you really start making these matchups, you can't say you're doing anything with the competition.
It's a fair evaluation from Paulie Malignaggi that for all of the hullabaloo about Zuffa's backers, we've yet to see their real strength. But at the same time, they just launched, so I'd give them a minute. There's now a lot of talk about Matchroom's 5-year extension with DAZN and the stability that communicates for them, which is more than we can say for their competitors. Though not just communicating stability for Matchroom in the foreseeable future, but their ability to deliver, to perform in a way that their broadcaster is satisfied with. You will notice that at the end of the Sky Sports deal, Sky wanted to renew, and here at the end of their DAZN deal, DAZN wanted to renew. Where Showtime didn't want to renew with the PBC or Fox, ESPN wasn't in a hurry to renew with Top Rank. So these are very good optics for Matchroom, particularly Eddie Hearn, who for a time, a lot of people in the American boxing space would have had you believe he's just the talkative Brit. Silver-tongued wordsmith. Pros and cons of Matchroom extending their stay on the DAZN platform. It definitely does communicate stability, but also independence. You heard Dana White say that Eddie Hearn works for his daddy, to which Eddie Hearn responded, "Your daddy is Turkey LL Sheik." Another way to interpret what he said is that where you work for Turkey LL Sheik via Zuffa, I don't. Matchroom doesn't have to. It was actually Drew, a regular here on the channel, on the panel, who pointed out, you don't see guys calling Turkey His Excellency anymore. Could that have something to do with his association with Zuffa? That if you are in fact the backer for what is supposed to be our competitor, well, there's nothing excellent about that, and it's about time that we assert our own independence. They're telling themselves. You see that old fish eyes Frank Warren has sort of withdrawn from those Ring Magazine and Riyadh Season cards. I don't see him calling Turkey His Excellency anymore. Eddie Hearn pointing out that Turkey LL Sheik is Dana White's daddy is essentially saying, he ain't my daddy. I don't work for that guy. In a roundabout way. This 5-year extension definitely does communicate independence and stability for Matchroom, but there are caveats. What I told you before, the drawback with DAZN is while every single DAZN subscriber is already a sports fan, you don't have to turn them. That's a pro. What's a con is you can only advertise your content to already existing subscribers, which in effect could inhibit your growth. your reach. Because DAZN as a platform still caters to a niche audience, a very specific one. When they were on Sky, there was greater chance of spillover. You know, some people watch Sky Sports for the darts, others watch it for the Premier League, and others watch it for boxing. So there was more of a chance that you could draw some casual consumers, some casual boxing fans, to a boxing match on Sky, whereas on DAZN, everybody there. I already told you, you can only advertise your content, your boxing matches, to already existing subscribers, which could, in effect, inhibit your growth. Over time, there are pros and there are cons to this 5-year extension. So what you're trying to imagine is, what is Zuffa Boxing on Paramount gonna look like in 5 years? They might have grown substantially. It's gonna be interesting to see how this plays out in the long run, because Matchroom's got a 5-year deal on DAZN and Zuffa's got a 7-year deal on Paramount. We'll see. Men's super lightweight news: ahead of his IBF title defense this weekend against Oscar Duarte, Richardson Hitchins will either target a unification match with Dalton Smith or move up to welterweight to fight Devin Haney if he beats Oscar on Saturday, as manager Keith Connolly says. Keith is likely the one who advised Richardson Hitchins to go into free agency like he advised one of his other fighters, Edgar Berlanga. Needless to say, that wasn't good advice. We ain't seen much of Edgar since he got knocked out by Hamza Shiraz in front of a hometown crowd, and Richardson Hitchins, we ain't seen much of him since his final fight under what was his Matchroom deal against George Kambosos. Why would Keith Connolly think it was a good idea for Richardson Hitchins, who doesn't have much marquee value, to enter free agency out there in the wilderness with no one to promote him, no one to push him? I don't know why he thought that was a good idea. I don't think taking on the Oscar Duarte fight was a good idea either, but beggars can't be choosers. What else was on the table for Richardson Hitchins if he didn't take that fight? At this point, he's working out of necessity, and what they want to do, if they win, is either move up to target a Devin Haney fight or unify at 140. So I'll say right now, I don't think Richardson Hitchins is on Devin Haney's radar. There's little to no incentive for Devin to give Richardson a shot at his newly obtained brown belt.
For what?
It's supposed to be in it for Devin, giving you an opportunity. It's likelier that if he stays champion after this weekend, he might be able to land a fight with Dalton Smith. Newly crowned WBC champion, stylistically, you could give Richardson Hitchins the edge in that fight. That fight might look something like the Liam Botto fight. Former champion Liam Botto, Richardson Hitchins became a champion fighting him, beating him. And in this fight, like in that one, Richardson Hitchins would have the stylistic edge because he's a pure boxer, whereas Dalton Smith, he's a boxer-puncher, not a pressure guy.
We know how it goes.
Provided he can stay champion after this weekend, a Dalton Smith fight is a winnable fight for Richardson Hitchins. The question is, can he get it when Matchroom has no obligation to give him access to their fighter, to their champion? Dalton Smith has other options for a unification match. The winner of Gary Antoine Russell versus Andy Hirioka for their WBA title, Shakur Stevenson for his WBO. That Richardson Hitchins is not the only option for Dalton Smith. And that's if Richardson Hitchins can even hang on to his belt this Saturday. I don't think he's going to.
I'm not scared to fight him in the pocket. And the more he come, the more he's going to take. I'm going to keep saying this. Every time I say something, it's true. The more he come is the more he's going to take. The more they tell him keep coming, I'm none of them guys he's fighting. He's going to notice on when it comes to the fight night. But it's just different. You can't come at a guy like me. You can't just, you're going to take a lot of punishment. Him trying to deliver punishment, he's going to have to come into, he's not going to get to me, and I'm sending that shit right back. And it's coming fast, it's coming accurate, and it's going to hurt.
Is there...
Listen, he says that Oscar can't come right at him, but Gustavo Lemos came right at him. To a lot of people, Gustavo Lemos was the rightful winner of that fight, even though Richardson Hitchins is the one who got the decision. Now, when he did, he was fortunate enough to be the house fighter. That was a Matchroom show, and he was a Matchroom fighter. And that will not be the case this weekend. Richardson Hitchins is a free agent now, with no real representation outside of Keith Connolly, whereas Oscar Duarte, he is with Golden Boy. I know that Turkey El Al Sheikh is the one that picked up this show and financed it, but it has the look of a Golden Boy promotion show. Oscar Duarte on the undercard, Ryan Garcia in the main event. Just saying that I don't know that Richardson Hitchins will get the consideration this weekend on that show that he got on the Matchroom show where he fought Lemos.
Might not.
And if he doesn't, he's up Schitt's Creek without a paddle, because the only thing he has of any value is that red and gold title. Without that, he's just another fighter. Why did Richardson Hitchins accept such a risky fight for him when it wasn't necessary and he didn't have to? It's because he didn't have much of a choice. It was this or nothing. It's not like the offers came pouring in for Richardson Hitchins once he achieved free agency. He went several months without doing much of anything.
He's fighting because he has to, because he, like the rest of us, has bills to pay.
This is a voluntary title defense. He's not under orders to fight Oscar Duarte. So if you're fighting him voluntarily, why?
You need money.
So I don't think it's gonna go well for him this weekend. I have Oscar Duarte lifting the IBF title from Richardson Hitchins.
I know the perfect information when it's facts out here. If all people have to do, Brian, is go do research. Go do their homework on him. Go do your homework. Have I ever been caught for any PSDs or anything, steroids or anything? No. Have him? Yes. Have I been accused of any of these things? Board meat, again, cheated, or gloves, anything dealing with the gloves or anything? No, but he have multiples of time. Go back to the Christian Hamner fight. You know what I mean? Go back to, you can go back to my fight in the first one. When the referee was holding his glove and he was looking out of the corner of his eye like he was finna get caught. You can see the sneakiness of him. It's so many different things. I even got a person from his own camp explaining something. Oh, this shit gonna come out, B.
Wow.
Trust me.
We've been trusting you for the last 5-6 years, Deontay, to produce some sort of concrete evidence of what you're saying, and you've yet to do that. He talks about Tyson Fury's sketchy past, his sketchy history, the Nandrolone case.
The Peds.
But listen, you weren't worried about Tyson Fury's sketchy past and PEDs when you willingly gave him an opportunity he didn't earn, he didn't deserve, so that when he beats you, that's the first thing on your mind?
Sounds like a case of sour grapes. Really sour.
And he wants to cast an air of doubt over the first fight in tandem with the second, except that after the first fight, you didn't hear Deontay Wilder mention anything about cheating.
Glove tampering.
So this documentary that Deontay keeps telling us about is likely going to be more of the same. Hearsay and conjecture, wild accusations, but nothing in terms of concrete evidence.
It's not about believing that Tyson Fury is a stand-up guy.
He's a scumbag too, just in a different way. It's just that Deontay Wilder's story after the second fight changed so many times. He blamed so many people. Kenny Bayless, his own corner, Mark Breland, Anthony Durrell,
For telling Mark Breland to throw the towel.
and of course the costume. Don't forget about the costume, because Wilder's first words after the second fight were that the costume he wore to make his ring walk weakened his legs, which he now denies, which he denied on Talk Sport.
You talked about your Game of Thrones outfit being too heavy for you.
I didn't say that.
You said it was too heavy for you.
I didn't say that.
Okay, well I might be wrong on that one. You talked about the long.
Y'all took a journalist that said something because y'all, everybody wanted to come in. Oh, wow, boom, boom, boom.
You talked about a long count, right? And
he said he was going to fight that way. That wasn't the Deontay that we've seen for 40-some plus fights. What do you think happened? Did he hurt you early on that affected you the rest of the way?
No, he didn't hurt me at all. It was the simple fact that my uniform coming out, Kevin, was way too heavy for me. I didn't have no legs from the beginning of the fight.
That makes you a liar, Deontay Wilder. Makes you a liar, and your little conspiracy theory about what really happened harder to believe.
Bouncing around all over the place. You tried to pawn off the blame for the costume being too heavy on Kevin Iole when all he did was record your official statement, and those were your first words after the fight, but not just yours. Wilder's longtime trainer and manager, JD's, said the exact same thing right after the fight, so this is not something that was manufactured to make Wilder look bad. People didn't pull it out of the sky.
I'm really enjoying this resurgence of the Glovegate conspiracy because I made a lot of money from it. I made a lot of money debunking it. Never heard of something so silly. You would think that Deontay Wilder were in a Looney Tunes cartoon, the way he's proposing that Tyson Fury had Acme anvils hidden inside of his gloves, when this is an experiment that any one of you out there can conduct at your local Dick's Sporting Goods. Just grab a boxing glove and try to fit your hand in there with something in your hand or something over it.
If you even can, you'd be likelier to hurt your own hand than your opponent by throwing a punch.
And still the Glovegate conspiracy lives on.
Barely.
Albeit on life support, because less and less people are buying into it.
And why would they?
Deontay, you've had about 5 or 6 years to substantiate what you're saying. You even had a third fight for you to get it back in blood, and all you got was beat up again. See, if he cheated in the first fight and the second, weren't you supposed to prove that by winning the third?
Well, he didn't win the third one.
He didn't win any of those fights, but I did think that was the point of the third one, that you're gonna cross all the T's, dot all the I's, and make sure there's no funny business in the third one to prove Fury cheated. So that if you now come out with a documentary making defamatory claims about what happened in those fights, you know you might be subject to a defamation suit. In spite of all of Wilder's crying, peeing, and shitting, it never really reached the point for Fury to where he needs to take this guy to court. But if you come out with a documentary to slander him and drag his name in the mud,
Be crossing the line.
though if you had anything substantial, you wouldn't be wasting your time with documentaries. You would have presented that evidence a long time ago to get the loss overturned, to get the WBC title returned to you, to sue Tyson Fury for punitive damages.
If you had anything substantial, the fact you haven't presented it yet, all heralds that you don't. But I am having fun pointing that out.
Really is just more of the same.